Matthias, first, welcome to the Mother Earth Heroes Show.
Thank you.
Guys, we are here with Matthias Langwasser, and he's really a guy who's pushes change for a long time already. He's followed his deep connection to nature, and I think that's just an amazing story because he lived for 2 years in the wilderness and he just ate what he found in nature.
That's fantastic.
And afterwards, he lived 7 years on a permaculture, I think you say it like this in English, farm. And as he followed his passion for healthy food, he got known as an amazing vegan cook and worked then for 17 years as a cook and even wrote a book about his passion. And today, and I think that's the story and the development of the development of how you thought about the world and how all this change came about. That you are today a founder of Regenbogenkreis, a company that is providing superfoods, products that support your gut health, raw food, and much more out of the rainforest. And why you do that, why you provide these products, you are spending a lot of time and efforts to protect actually the rainforest. And there is not just the protection, but the involvement of the people who natively live there and give them some base which they can live on in their known environment. All of that is what Matthias did the last 20 or so years, and now we are curious to learn about this whole process and what your theory was. And that leads me to the first question. When you, Matthias, back then spent this 2 years in the wilderness, like what was where have you been with your thoughts at this moment? Do you want to escape society in a way? Do you want to tap into nature? What was the reason you decided to do this drastical, for some people seeming, decision?
I had different reasons. One reason was to really deeply connect with nature, to live in nature. Another reason was I wanted to discover myself. I wanted to find out who I really am, or what, and especially what my mission is in life. And I also wanted to escape society.
Great. And have you found answers in living in nature, on especially this mission part?
Yeah, I did. I found deep answers. I had some very powerful experiences. Some by chance, some intentionally. So I had in this time I had some difficult experiences, let's say, with plants. So I let's say I ate the wrong plants and I got poisoned. And in this process, I got very, very deep messages. It was somehow a little bit like, like plant medicine, but not. I didn't choose it intentionally. It just happened, by chance, let's say. And there I got very, very deep insights. So, for example, I had one poisoning with herbs, where I got to see in my state of delirium, I got to see like a book of life. And in this book there was I could ask any question in the state, and I would get every answer to any question I asked, So I did have like a very deep insights, and somehow the conclusion or the essence of what came to me, after this time in the wilderness was that I'm here to also help the planet, help the plants, help nature, and also that my path was to dive even more into nature, to live live in nature, to cultivate plants, herbs, fruits, in permaculture ways, and to also learn more from nature. That was, the essence of what came out from me.
And a great way to learn about nature is like planting seeds and getting stuff out of it and eat it directly out of the dirt in a way. Yeah. And that is like actually really, from today, it looks like a red line, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe in the process, it wasn't always like that. So can you just, because I think it's good for people to have an image. Like, how can we imagine living in the woods? Is it like really you had a tent there and you just lived somewhere in Germany in the Schwarzwald or so? Or how was it? Can you give us a trip into this world?
A dummy guide, if you may.
What do you say?
A dummy guide to live in forest.
Yeah, okay. I was traveling 2 years through France and Spain, and there I was basically, I had a sleeping bag and a isomat, and basically I didn't have much else, I had like a backpack and very little clothes and no electric things, no lightning, no fire, just no cooks, no cooking material, anything. So I was just sleeping outside. The roof was the sky, and I learned to live from plants, I collected like nuts and fruits and herbs. And I also didn't prepare for that, So before I left, I didn't read or study books on what to eat. So I just found it out by intuition, Sometimes I was wrong, I have to admit, with my intuition. This way I ate like lots of almonds, for example, fig trees, and was also quite special. I already had a quite big consciousness on organic food and on vegan food at this time, and so I never ate from normal conventional plantations, where they used a poison, to treat the plants. So I always looked for example, for abundant old farmhouses or for abundant grapefruit, not grapefruit, grape fields, and the amazing thing was that there was not one day on this trip where I didn't find something to eat. I always, sometimes, I had also times where I was quite hungry, and I think I lost some weight, but I never really starved, So every day I found something very great to eat. And that was a beautiful experience.
Fantastic.
So out of this 2 years, you found in a way your mission, which was something with connecting to nature and bringing this wisdom in the world in a way which you experienced for yourself with doing permaculture, and now you're experiencing not even just for you, but as well you're giving the experience to other people with providing things Regenbogenkreis is selling. When you think about today, where you are at today, so there's always, from at least our experience, a theory of change. Like you started out Regenbogenkreis because you had some theory, you saw something which needed to be changed. Right. And our question is like, when you initially started out with your venture you're currently having, what was the thought, like what was this initial thought where you thought, oh man, this really needs to change. in this specific way, and Regenbogenkreis was born.
Exactly.
Yeah. The main thought, or the initial thought, was what can I personally do to help saving the rainforests? So because I mean, there's many organizations, who help saving the rainforest, and there's also different paths, different methods, let's say, or approaches to that. And I, for myself, I decided that I don't want to be someone who's protesting against destruction, because I personally, if I'm extremely sensitive, and I love trees and forests so much. And when I personally deal with destruction, I get into such a bad state that I lose lots of energy, So I also personally needed to find a way to do something which gives me energy, rather taking energy from me, So then I had the idea that to sell herbs which were harvested, herbs, plants, fruits which were harvested in the rainforest by indigenous people, and help them saving their land, because they have an alternative income in comparison to selling their land to oil companies, to soya companies, to palm oil companies, to gold companies, or let's say farming big farmers, who burn down rainforests for cattle and so on. If you help those people who live there, or try to live in the rainforest in a traditional way, if you help them to create alternative income, then you can, because lots of herbs and plants. Let's take one example, which is camu camu. Camu camu is known as the fruit in the world which has the most vitamin C, and it grows in the Amazonian rainforest, especially in Peru, and it only grows in the rainforest. You cannot cultivate it somewhere else, So if you then help preserving this natural source of camu camu, you also, it only works if the rainforest is safe and protected. Mm-hmm. So in order to, if you then if we buy it, and we of course look that we have the best quality, which is like sustainably harvested, and which is fair trade, so the people are paid in a fair way. If you do it this way, then you help people to keep their traditional ways, and to use the fruits which were there since thousands of years to help also save their environment and their base of living, And this is just one example. And there are many other plants. We have a lot of plants from Peru. So this is like one aspect of saving rainforest, and the other aspect is that we said, okay, for every product we sell, we make the price a little bit higher, and then we take an amount for every product we sell, and we work together with a organization which is Tropenwaldstiftung Oro Verde. And so they work together with communities in Ecuador, and so with every product we sell, we help them buy rainforest and save their land. So this way we help saving rainforest in two ways. So this, to come back to your question. This was the main question I had. What can I personally do to help saving rainforest, also on a bigger scale? Because of course, if you do something alone, you have a little bit of impact. But if you reach hundreds of thousands of people, which we do now after 10 years of Regenbogenkreis, then you have a big impact, you know. And then also another aspect was to bring vegan food, I mean the knowledge about vegan diet into the world, into society, because vegan diet is also helping extremely saving rainforest, what many people do not know, and also the helping to help people remember that we are dependent on nature and that we should treat nature as our mother, you know. And for example, we have on every product, we have the sentence, in Liebe und Dankbarkeit für die wundervollen Schätze oder die wundervollen Pflanzen, welche unsere Mutter Erde uns schenkt. So in love and respect for the beautiful plants which our Mother Earth is providing to us. So this is also, it's on one level, it's energizing the product because the energy of love and thankfulness goes into the product. And on the other hand, it helps people remember that we should not only just take from nature, that we consciously, with respect, you know, take the plants, that we do not take things for granted, you know.
What I really love about the story is this triangle, which is manifested in a company, in a economically working company, of helping the indigenous people with giving them a base of which they can live on by bringing out of this amazing things out of the rainforest in a sustainable way. On the other hand, there is a company in Germany where people can work and people can live from, and then even productive rainforest, like this triangle, which is an amazing evidence again how we can use the system we are currently living in, and it provides everything to do good in the world. And what I wonder, and what better than I wondered in the preparation, is how the decision came to make a company out of it and not a non-profit or something else, you know, like what was this thought process? And have you had, like, what was your mindset to money as well? What was your relationship with money? And is your relationship and the meaning of money in this whole triangle? Because it can live, right? It's the blood which needs to flow in a way in the system. So, like, why a for-profit, and what role does money play in this whole system you're working in right now?
Yeah. For me, it always was like this, and it's also now the same. I studied the circumstances in the world. I mean, I'm studying this since 30 years, so I really know what's going on, you know, and I know what big companies and big governments, what they do with billions of money, you know, billions of dollars or euros. So, but I also know that you can also do good things with money. I'm also pretty aware that money is also produced. I mean, it's made by governments also in order to control people or in order to make their power stronger. I mean, I'm also pretty aware of that. And I still think that it's also a form of energy, and we can use that energy to also create a big change. For example, if my dream always was to have billions of dollars in order to buy land, in order to buy rainforest, you know. I mean, the dream is like to buy all the rainforest in the world which still exists, and not only buy it, but also then hire people who really safeguard the rainforests and make sure, even if they need weapons or whatever, you know, to make sure that no companies can illegally go into the rainforest and cut them down. So this was always like a dream which I have since many years, to have huge amounts of money in order to help saving the world or saving the forests. So, and the other thing is that if you have a non-profit organization, you're always dependent on finding donators. I mean, finding people who give you on a regular basis money. And maybe also, I mean, what we see, for example, with the World Wildlife Fund, you know, which was also had a time where it was very critiqued because they take money from big organizations or from companies, and then they also did quite weird things, yeah, like hunting lions and stuff, you know. So that it also shows if you take money from big companies, it often leads to that you then have to, let's say, to betray your vision, you know. And so I said I thought it's the best thing to develop the most powerful herbal combinations or superfoods in order to make people healthier, and then with the selling of the products have a stable income in order to help people to you know, to become more awakened or help saving rainforest and so on. And I always see that now, I mean, since our project is quite big, I mean, let's say we have let's say around 20 people internally, and then we have around, I mean, lots of external people who also work for us or live from Regenbogenkreis. So we have some resources also for things which do not bring us any money, you know. For example, I say, I ask my assistant to do some research on some topic. For example, let's take the topic of virus, you know. Just a little side hint that there's until today there's no scientific proof that viruses cause diseases. There's no scientific proof for that, and nearly nobody knows that, you know. And nearly nobody would believe me if I would tell that, you know. And so I asked her to do a lot of research on that so that I can produce a video on that topic, because in my opinion it's extremely important that this knowledge comes out so that people lose this crazy fear, which is also consciously made, you know, but this is another topic. So or we can invest, or I can hire people to make a lot of research on how people can escape the vaccination enforcement, you know. And then that's because we have not much, but we have a little bit of money in the background, so that we can also do some things which we couldn't do if we wouldn't make money with selling the products, you know. So and then I'm quite thankful that we have that base now.
And when you think about this journey you had, what has changed in your worldview? Because what I recognize and what we have seen throughout this podcast, perspectives change, right? And perspectives change with experience. And I mean, through building what you have built, I imagine that you have collected a lot of new experiences. Did your worldview change in a way which reflects in the mission of Regenbogenkreis now as well? And what is when you talk about buying the whole rainforest in the whole world, you know, what is the specific vision maybe based on this new learnings for the next couple of months and years? Did anything change, and are you shortly before, I don't know, having some new thing coming out or something like that, you know? Did your perspective change about the last 10 years, and how does it reflect on the mission for the next 2-3 years for Regenbogenkreis?
Yeah, I mean, the journey was and is very intense, because I was always looking for the truth, you know. I mean, I'm someone who I'm always ready to change my opinion, if I find new evidence. So I'm not someone who has a system, a belief system, and wants to stay in that belief system because it's comfortable. I really want to know what is true and what is not true. So I was always a seeker for the truth. I mean, not on a spiritual level, you know. So I was studying, or I am studying, let's say, the laws of nature or the laws of life, but also on a political level, because in my opinion, we need also to look at the political level or the business level worldwide if you want to change things. And what I was witnessing is that I had, for example, I had big hopes when the Greens came to power in Germany, you know. I thought, wow, now it's really going to change, you know. But now after, let's say, 10 years later, I see nothing changed, you know. I mean, it's just now what's left of the Greens is the name. Yeah, it's really what's left. Otherwise, they're really doing nothing to help saving the environment. I mean, there's some little examples where it's not like that. Okay, I know that, yeah. But in general, they were totally bought by the system, you know. Now they're even promoting the pharmaceutical companies, you know. It's really it's a little bit sad to witness. So now I can also see that a lot of green ideas are used just to keep on with destroying nature. Yeah. So now it's like because it's like a trend to be, let's say, alternative, to be. They all use the phrases of what's the name of being sustainable and so on. It's a big trend, and it's very in to do that, you know. But I mean, in my opinion, the only thing what matters is at the end is the result. You know? So I mean, you can be politicians, and you know, and they can talk whatever they want, you know. But at the end, the only thing what matters is the fruits of their actions, and there we need to very carefully look. I mean, for example, on one hand, it's important that we stop the car pollution, right? But then if we produce electric cars and we don't look at what happens in order to produce the acus, you know, for the electric cars, which is like a huge nature destruction for example, in South America. That's not. We have to look at the whole picture, and that's very, in my opinion, very, very important. And and we need to be, let's say, in 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it was everything was very clear, you know. Like you had for example, you had the conservatives, and the conservatives they hated nature protection, yeah? They always worked, like the CDU, they always worked against everything which had to do with nature protection. And then the Greens and let's say the left wings of the socialists, the SPD, they worked for good things. It looked like it, at least, yeah? But now the whole thing is totally mixed up. And you need to very carefully look who says what, and then especially what they do. And so we need to be, or let's say the people who really want to, who do not only pretend to that they want to change the world, but who mean it from the heart, you know. They need to look very carefully at what people really do. And so in a way, it's not as, in my opinion, it's not as black and white anymore as it seemed to be.
Or black and green.
Or black and green. Yeah. So and there's many. I mean, there's what also changed is, for example, I mean, the vegan movement became very, very strong. You know, so there's like, which is really great, that so many people are conscious about what they're eating, or what their diet, how their diet may affect the world or nature or animals. And there's also a big consciousness on alternative living, especially, or let's say on sustainable living, especially in Europe or in Germany, or also in the States. And so that is a great development but we also need to see that concerning destruction of nature, that is still going on. That didn't change, you know. Mm. So we really need to, in my opinion, help people to wake up, you know, and to see that we need to protect our life resources in order to be able to survive, and also on the other hand to behind the destruction, because there are forces behind that. It's not, many things are not just happening by chance. They're intentionally created, you know? And that is also something we need to look at, and we need to, in my opinion, really change the political system and the society we're living in, because it's not democratic, even if we are told that, you know, there's nothing democratic about the system. Yeah. And we really need to change it.
Talking about, I mean, now we are on a big scale, right? We're talking about changing political systems. We are talking about changing how certain companies, trade humanity and nature and like our whole planet and all. And you talked about we need to wake up more people. And from my opinion, there are, like, first, I would not fully agree, but we don't need to agree on that, on the whole political and what corporations do side. But what I agree is that more people need and will wake up in some way. What does waking up means for you? Because, I mean, there are huge climate movements at the moment going on, right? It has, like, top priority even in and after Corona, which took a lot of focus of people in boardrooms. Sustainability still had a huge priority. At least I felt like that through the podcast and through talking to people. And there are even things talked about on a big political level, like something that, like the Great Reset, where CEOs, politicians, all kind of people think about how we not go back to an economical system we have lived in before Corona, but we actually use this shutting down of the system of Corona to rethink a lot of things and to build it up better from there where we are. So I have the feeling, and the question is, I have the feeling there are waking up a lot of people in certain ways, you know, maybe it's not the right or the best way, but at least there is an awakening. So what do you mean with we need to wake more people up? And is this waking up reflecting in the mission of Regenbogenkreis at the moment? Or is it more a personal mission besides Regenbogenkreis you're seeking out at the moment?
First of all, I totally agree with you. I mean, there's, of course, many people and also many companies who are, who are dealing with those questions and, and rethinking lots of things. So there's a big awakening or a big awakening happening already, which is really great. On the other hand, so what I mean with waking up is this coming back to nature, to that we really understand that it's because, for example, my experience is you can only protect something if you know it and if you love it. Yeah. If you live in a, let's say, in a mind world where everything is on a logical level, but you don't you didn't experience, for example, the connection to an old tree, then you don't know that connection, and you cannot really, you cannot love it because you don't know it. And if you don't know it, it's not so close to you. It's just something very emotional, you know. So people, in my opinion, people need to feel that we are not separated. We are not separated from nature. We are not separated from others. And we are all connected. And every action we take is affecting others, in a good way or in a bad way. So I'm talking about this waking up on a, let's say, on a spiritual level, but also on an emotional level. Just give you a very practical example. If you produce a lot of rubbish, you know, and you throw this rubbish into a container, and then once per week, the rubbish is brought away somewhere and is burned or whatever, or it's sold to Africa, whatever it is, you know. The rubbish is away. You don't see the effects of your action. But for example, if there's no rubbish transportation and you need to keep that rubbish at your house, you will very carefully think about how many rubbish you will produce in the future. Mm-hmm. Because it stinks, you know, it looks ugly, it smells, so you have the direct effect. And in this world we live in right now, which is so, let's say, so civilized, you know, we often don't see the effects of our actions because it's not direct, you know. So that's something what I see as my mission, to help people remember the connection with nature, and also, for example, how important it is to save the trees, to save the forests, to save especially the old trees, also in our country, you know, which were grown since hundreds of years, and I saw a lot of them disappear in my life, you know, just for no reason, just because they were in the way or whatever. So that is what I, and then also to see and to help understand the system we are living in. That is what I also see as my mission.
When you talk about a tree in the way of, for example, something like a street, you know, and we put away this tree to put a street on. I mean, you are an entrepreneur now, right? I don't know if you would call yourself like this or if you have another name for it, but you have a company, and I think, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would guess that you sometimes need to be practical, straight on. This way, there's the street in a way, and there is something in a way, but we need to, like, go over this obstacle and go straight on. You know, like you have experience in this world what practicality is, and that there needs to be a result in the end. And I wonder how you connect this attitude of, like, you know, this attitude of, hey, when there is a tree in the way, build the street around and don't cut the tree and build, like, how you connect this attitude with the practicality, our lives, and especially our lives as entrepreneurs and as people who really want to push big things forward, how you connect this both worlds, you know, if, like, do I see a difference, or do you see there a stretch sometimes as well between both of these worlds?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Sometimes it is really a challenge, you know, because, like, I did build this company, and this company is in this system, in this society, in this economy world, and we need to, in order to pay the loans, no, not the loans, what do you say, the salaries. In order to pay the salaries, we need to make a certain amount of money every month, you know. And so it's very, and for example, when I started the company, I was like, I had this idea of all the people, who work with me, they are my friends, we are like a big community, we decide everything together, and it will be just wonderful, and everyone is heard and so on. And so I started with this in a quite naive way, and it really didn't work out at all. It just didn't work. It was a disaster, because I mean, I even had I give you a funny example, So I was at this time we had at the beginning we did everything ourselves. We produced the products, we packed the packages and did send it out to customers and so on. So I was there, and we had at this point we had like 25 people, and so there was one woman, very spiritual, and she was always walking around, talking to people. And I said to her, "Listen, what about working, And then she said, "My mission is to spread good vibes, And it's like a typical example, A lot of people who came to us, they thought, "Wow, let's go to Regenbogenkreis. There, everything is different, We can be really alternative. We meditate in the mornings, we meditate at noon, we meditate in the evening, in between some fun work.
Some packages got sent away."
So it's like, it really, I even came to after some years, I even came to a point when I was on hiring, I needed to hire some new people. I said, if they say they are spiritual, I will not hire them.
Yeah, so how do you connect this today? It looks like you went through the struggle and you found some conclusion out of it. Of course, it's never finished, but what is the conclusion today out of this mess in a way?
Yeah, so though the conclusion is that in order to have a successful business, you need to be extremely clear. You need to be extremely clear in the outside, but also in the inside. For example, now we have for every process in the company, we have the process is written down. Mm-hmm. Just because we cannot afford anymore to lose times in discussions, Because before it was like one person said, "No, we do it like this." The other person said, "No, we do it like that." And then they were struggling, and the work was not done. So now we have very clear processes, and we also set very clear intentions when we hire people. We say, "Okay, this is your task, and you need to be successful with that task." And we also want to have a certain engagement, it's also a mindset. The mindset is, because when I built the company, I always said, I give 100%. I give 100% energy, everything I have, to make that possible. Otherwise, I would have given up many, many times already, because we had many hard times in between, also economically, where it was very tight to not making it the next month. So, and we always say, when we hire new people, we say, we want you to be disciplined, we want you to be 100% engaged, and we want you to have a positive mindset. For example, if there is a problem, you talk to us and you give us an idea how we can solve the problem. But you're not someone who doesn't talk and then in the back says, "Well, they are shit, Matthias is not what." I experienced it, that people said, I would not walk my talk, right? Because they thought I would be nicer. The thing is, I am extremely nice, but I also need to protect the project. Yeah, and if people do not, we pay, let's say, for one person, we need to pay let's say 3,000 euros per month, Right. And that person needs to produce that money. at least. Otherwise, it financially doesn't work. I mean, it's just we live in that business world. I cannot change it right now, you know. So, and seriously, I mean, probably it would be different if we would have like millions of euros over, which we don't. So we need to look very carefully that every area in the company is productive and is also efficient. So and at the same time, and that is the business side, you know, and at the same time, let's say the emotional, the spiritual side is that we do everything that the people are happy. Like they get the superfoods for free, you know. We have potlucks. They get and we always say, hey, listen, if you have anything you need, come to us. We will help you. We can solve anything, but we need to talk about it, you know. Mm-hmm. So I always encourage people. I thank them for their efforts, you know. So it's like a mix of being very clear, and also I also needed to learn to lead, and to also at some point say, end of discussion, I decide, because otherwise we will not come to the end of this topic. And we don't have time for that, you know. And at the same time, to be open and loving, and really needed to bring that two worlds together, you know. And I also did book a lot of coaching for that, you know. I mean, because when I started the company, I was simply too nice. I couldn't say no, and it didn't work. So I needed to. I had a coach. I hired a coach, you know, and then I learned step by step, you know, to set my borders, to say no, to also fire people.
What was the mindset behind not saying no? Because coming back again to this tree, like the thing how I see the world is that the people who built the street and cut down the tree face the same problem as you have faced by being so nice in the company and saying yes to everything and engaging in every discussions forever in a way. And my question is, how have you solved this now in a way without going too over the edge, right? Which some people do then, and be super hard and like go in the other direction. How you find this nice middle, because I think that can teach a lot to all the people out there, because we all need to find this middle, right? In the world we are living and the world we are wishing to have. And there are so many, black and greens we have in us and in the world, you know, which we somehow need to bring together. How have you mastered this through your coachings and stuff?
I think one thing I realized for myself is I do deeply believe that the energy which holds everything together is love,
right? And
that my highest goal is to be an expression of love. Mm-hmm. And I learned that to really love is also to set borders. Sometimes, if it's necessary, and to also say no, and to also sometimes fight against something or for something. Yeah, maybe a little bit like this, you know, this sage, this tale of Jesus, you know, who went into the temple and he threw down the tables, and he threw the people who made money in the temple out, you know. So he also, there you could say he was not loving, you know, but maybe he was extremely loving at this moment where he showed those people that this is not the right way. And that's the thing for me. For example, one important thing is when I work with people, also because in my company I work with people, of course, also on an emotional level or on a personal level, and I know that everyone wants to be seen. Yeah, people want to be seen, and they want to be heard, and that is extremely the same as children, you know. And that's the most important thing. So, for example, I learned if I make choices, decisions where I say, now you do it, you have to do it like this. Yeah. And let's say 5 years ago, I just said, this is the decision, do it. Yeah. Now I say, now I explain why this is the decision. You know, so I say, I decided this because of this and this and this. And that's because people need to understand what our, let's say, we, the leaders in the company, yeah, I mean, there's 2 more beside me. They need to understand why we made certain decisions. So, because if they do not understand it, then they have like suggestions of, we might be wrong, you know, we might not listen to them, we might not take them into our considerations and so on. And that's one thing what I really learned, to set the border if it's necessary, but also explain why, and to not be super hard, to be just to just say, this is my border, and because, and I still, for me, you're still a great person. It doesn't have to do anything with you. It's not personal. You know what I mean?
I really like this thought of setting borders with the initial thought of being loving, being nice, being kind, which doesn't mean, I mean, that's a perception maybe we humans as well have, that love means not setting border, right? But maybe, as you said, especially when you're loving, it means setting borders and being crystal clear with the people and persons around you. And it depends as well, right? When you have a lot of love and passion for Regenbogenkreis, and there is a person who is hurting this project in a way with its behavior, then it is, you can be really loving for Regenbogenkreis and show that this is a playground which you and other people have built, which you don't allow now that it's hurt in a way, right? So I think it's cool to bring both of these concepts together and see, and it's good learning or good to visualize again, that setting borders can or is a result out of love. Often it can be a result out of love and not out of I wanna and I need to restrict other people or something like this.
Yeah, really, and it's still, for me, it's still like a learning process, you know, because I always make the experience that we are very patient also when people do not do their job as we need it, you know. We try everything to help them to be able to manage, you know. And that also costs us a lot of money, because in the meanwhile, we often lose money just because, one example, you have a person in the purchase department and they forgot to order products, you know. So then the products were not on stock, which meant that we lost a lot of money just because the products were not there. So for this person, it might have looked as a little mistake, but this little mistake costed us a lot of money, which we didn't have. Yeah, and then it's always like, what do? You know, how long do you give the person a chance until you need to realize, okay, wow, we just cannot finance it any longer, that experiment. Yeah, and I think if I would have been more hard, I would have made more income. Yeah. But on the other hand, that I don't want to be hard. So it's always, I'm still always trying to find a balance, you know.
Matthias, I have a curiosity. So when we did our research and we were like really blown away by what you have done, it's, you know, basically you follow your passion for the past 25 years, 30 years. It's just a long journey. Like, you know, so many entrepreneurs would quit in the second, third year, fourth year. So it means that, you know, it shows a lot of like unique characteristic of you. So this is my personal curiosity, and I would like to ask from you, because I don't have an answer for it. When I look at the future, right? the future obviously is not bright if things continue going on this path, right? So as an entrepreneur who has a business, whose mission is to save rainforests, how do you keep yourself hopeful?
Mm-hmm.
How do when you look at the future, are you hopeful? Do you have hopes? And please give me an answer that I could just like take it and use it to just really make myself use it in my personal life. And then, so that's one part of the question. The other part is
maybe I can answer this first.
Yeah. Yes.
And then you ask the next question.
Sure.
I always give honest answers, so no worries. The thing is, this question which you just asked me is for me maybe one of the most important questions in my whole life. And I was always struggling with this my whole life, and I'm still struggling, because I had times where I was totally depressed. I had times where I looked at nature destruction and I was depressed. I couldn't even get out of bed, So since also many years, I have a strong connection to spirit beings, which I talk to. And yeah, I mean, that's another story how I found them. But since more than 20 years, I talk to them on a daily basis. And I always, maybe the same question you asked, I asked them maybe 1,000 times, over the last decades. And the answer always was, one answer is that we are creators, right? So we need to create the future which we want to experience consciously in our, let's say, in our consciousness, in our mind. So in other words, if millions of people visualize the planet as let's say as paradise, let's say everyone lives in peace, the forests are saved, we have permaculture everywhere, and so on, organic gardening, and so on, then that has an immense power, and the chance that this reality will manifest is extremely high, because there are millions of people who believe in it. On the contrary, if millions of people visualize, or hundreds of millions of people visualize deserts, like rainforest destruction, like cities out of concrete, which are everywhere. If we visualize this consciously or subconsciously, the chance that we create a future like this is also very high. So I learned that even if it looks, let's say, even if it looks bad now, to consciously always focus on what I want to experience in this world, or how I want the world to look like. And then because you can take this down to the personal level. For example, to build a Regenbogenkreis, I could only build Regenbogenkreis this way because I had this vision of a company which is blossoming, which is expanding, which is touching hundreds of thousands of people. If I would have visualized that we will be bankrupt next year, that people don't like me, that people think vegan food is bullshit, then we would not have this conversation right now. So it was only possible to build this project because I only believed 100% that it would work. And we need, and the laws are, the human or natural laws are always the same. So if these laws work for our personal lives, they must also work for our humanity, So that's why it's, in my opinion, it's so important that we make it, and I know it's really hard to to see, because most of the people I know, either they are totally positive, yeah, because they say like,
there is nothing bad.
I don't look at this, it doesn't exist, you know. That's the positive thinking, you know. And then there are the others which say everything is going downhill, you know. And there's not many people in between. And we need to face what is going wrong. Let's take again the example of the company. For example, if a person doesn't work well, yeah, and I say, I love this person, she's great, then because I don't want to look at this problem, then I will have a big problem in the future.
Right.
So I need to face what is not working in the company. I need to change it. And the same with the problems we have on this planet. We need to face what is going wrong, otherwise we cannot change it. And at the same time, we should always visualize a healthy planet. Otherwise, we cannot manifest that. And at the same time, if we only focus on the negative, we lose so much energy that we lose the energy to be a positive change. That's also what happened to me when I was so depressed. Of course, I couldn't do anything anymore. So this is.
We lose the perspective as well, right? We lose the imagination of how it could be better. Yeah. Because when we have this picture in mind, even when we don't have the solutions, like it will help us to think more in solutions and not in philosophizing about what everything goes wrong and going more into action rather into depression. Yeah,
and for example, that's why I don't read news or don't listen to news or something, you know, because I mean, this kind of world they are presenting to us, it's not the world I want to live in, and it's also not the true world, you know. If you really go into this, it makes you depressed. So it's also important that we look at examples which inspire us, you know, like people who, for example, let's do you know this desert greening project in Ethiopia? You know, where just one person was able to green the desert on a huge scale, you know, and that's. If you look at people like this, that really gives us energy, and it also is a living example of what is possible. And I bet that every person who was with this guy who founded desert greening at the beginning said, "You're crazy. It will never work." You know, but he said it will work, and I believe in it. And probably that was his deepest dream. So, and there's so many examples in the world that people did things which seemed to be impossible, and they just made it, you know. And that's, I believe that we need to remember that we are powerful beyond any limits, and that we can create anything if we really believe in it.
That's a powerful answer.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Matthias, I think in respect as well of your time, that are amazing words to dive into the last question. And with all of that in mind, and having in mind like this both worlds of seeing what is going on, but having this vision of that it will and can be better. What is your vision for the next like 1 or 2 years? Maybe with Regenbogenkreis, or maybe even on a scale you just wanna introduce us to your vision. It doesn't need to be just with Regenbogenkreis, because you maybe have visions you want to talk about.
The vision for Regenbogenkreis is that we grow and expand, and that we reach many, many more people, that we reach millions of people worldwide. And what I always manifest every morning, I swim every morning. I'm living at the river, you know, and I'm swimming every morning through the river. And while I'm swimming, I'm manifesting my vision for myself and also for the world. And one of my manifestations is today, hundreds of millions of people worldwide wake up and consciously choose to walk the path of peace, of love, of light, of truth, and of caring for Mother Earth. So that's also my vision for us, for the planet.
Nice.
Lovely.
Matthias, thank you a lot for your time. It was a pleasure to have you on the show. And thank you for your perspectives, which we haven't covered so much on the show, but we need more out of the world of going more in a way of connecting with nature rather than analyzing it and putting it into numbers, because I think that's such an important aspect. And as you said, maybe hugging a tree will give us a much more perspective on nature than analyzing, I don't know, how dry periods are going through Australia or something like that. And it gives us more on an emotional level. And this emotional level is something we need to reach to really come into action, which is not ending after 1 or 2 months, because we understand it on a level on our head, but we don't feel it in the end in our heart. So thank you for this perspectives, and I take it with me.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Matthias. It's been very inspiring, and I loved it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It was really great to talk to you both, and I hope that we soon meet each other personally.
Yeah.
Yes, that was lovely.